I'm gonna try this again. Haven't uploaded a video in a while, and been working on filming various parts of the documentary series that I would love to be making as the summer gets going. I'm actually here in Zhejiang, which is about an hour and a half drive from Chengdu. It's right up at the edge of the Himalayas. Came here to film some stuff. Was unsuccessful finding the spot that I wanted to film. Actually, I wasn't unsuccessful. I got frustrated with trying to buy a ticket to a place that I've been to like 12 times and just couldn't straight up buy a ticket. Had to go through this whole rigmarole with my phone and all this other stuff. So I just gave up and left. I'll film that bit someplace else. Better locations near my home. I realized like I have a lot of videos about like living and working in China, and I haven't really updated those in a long time. And so I thought I'd quickly talk about sort of the situation here in China now with COVID-19, situation for foreigners in particular. Essentially, I returned to China on February 19th from the United States. At that time, the borders were still open. As you may or may not be aware, the borders between China and the rest of the world closed on March 26th or 27th. And so now currently, the only people that can enter China, with few exceptions, diplomats and very, very important people, are Chinese nationals returning home, right of return. So if you're a Chinese student and you're living and working in another country, or a Chinese citizen living and working in another country, you can return to China. The flights are very limited, and when you return, you're going to have to do a 2-week quarantine in a hotel at your expense, followed by a 2-week quarantine in your home. So pretty expensive, and to even get back here. So essentially, China is closed for the moment. So if you're thinking of coming to China and you're not a Chinese national, if you're a Chinese national, you're probably not watching this video if you live overseas. But anyway, you're not going to get in. We don't really know when the borders are going to open again. There's talk that they will open in in the fall, in time for the new school year, September, October. I don't think that's true. I think it's going to be longer than that. Saw a report yesterday the EU is considering opening its border with China if China is willing to reciprocate, which I'm not sure whether China is going to be willing to do, given the control of the virus that we have here now, seemingly. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, a lot of people out there, and Western media who seems to almost take a little bit of like perverse joy in finding that there might be a problem or a resurgence of the virus here. And I just want to clarify, as someone who lives here, there isn't. We have an app on our phones that through WeChat that's updated every day that shows us the official government numbers, and you can say, oh well, they're lying about that. My question would be, why would they lie about that? And I can bring you through the logic of why they would lie, why they wouldn't lie about that, and why they've been pretty honest. Number one, the government is really afraid of another outbreak. So the only way to control an outbreak, unless you're the United States, which is to just pretend it's not happening, is to test aggressively, to trace those contacts, to isolate people who may have been exposed until the danger period is passed. You've tested, you've got results back, and they're not infected with the virus. And that's what China's been doing since things were bad in Wuhan. They shut down, remember, this is a country that shut down the entire country for a space of about almost 2 months, and very slowly and carefully opened back up. The opening up process here was extremely slow and at times frustrating. Things would open up and then they'd close. There's really nowhere to go for a long time. Sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background here, in addition to people on bikes, just people screaming, which is pretty normal. So it was really, overall, a well-done process. And the idea that there may have been people sort of walking around spreading the virus, and it was like being covered up by the government, like here in Chengdu or here in Zhejiang or wherever in China, is just, it doesn't logically make sense when the restrictions that are in place and were in place and have been in place were pretty severe. We all have various health codes that we have on our phones. You still cannot enter a lot of locations without a health code. The health code tracks where you've been using your phone's internal GPS system. So it will tell people where you've been. If you've been in an area where there have been reported cases, it's going to show up as yellow or red, and you're not going to be able to go places. So if you have that robust system in place, and you're reporting publicly every single incident of the virus, right? Whether it be somebody who flew in on a plane, Chinese person, and then who is subsequently isolated, or whether it be a local outbreak. If you're reporting on that, the leap of logical imagination to believe that then somebody in the government is like making all that stuff up to cover up what's actually a massive outbreak of the virus or something, that just defies logic, right? As someone who lives here, I can tell you that it's not that country. I saw this comment on Facebook the other day, and I've echoed this many times. A lot of my friends, people I know, think I live in some sort of version of North Korea, where, you know, we live in a police state, there's like pictures of Mao everywhere, and we're like saluting it. Like, it's not like that here. Look at this girl with red hair. It's definitely not that country. That idea that somehow they could cover all this up and that it's still spreading here badly is actually wishful thinking on the part of people in America and England and other countries where they're doing such a bad job that they need in some way to justify the fact that maybe China's doing a bad job too. And it's sort of silly, and it's as someone who lives here and someone who feels very safe here, it's borderline offensive to think that like all the precautions that are being taken are all just sort of like a smokescreen for this insidious virus spreading everywhere. Well, as someone who lives here, I can tell you, we don't know sick people. You know, if it was spreading around, you know, the hospitals would be full. I wouldn't be able to walk into a hospital. I have plenty of friends who've walked into hospitals for routine, you know, medical checkups or anything else. They're not full of coronavirus patients. You know, secret hospitals someplace. It's just not. It doesn't logically make any sense. I'd love for someone in the comments to disagree with me so I can argue with you about simple logic. So things generally have been very much under control here, and the reason they've been under control is that they haven't really let anybody into the country, and every single person they have been letting into the country since March 27th has been isolated. Right? Now, the outbreak, the mini outbreak in Beijing, was greeted in the Western media, including the New York Times, which is a source that I read because I'm pretty left-wing, progressive, and even NPR to an extent. It was like, oh, outbreak in Beijing. They clamped down on that pretty hard in the last couple weeks. There's about 280 cases, I want to say, active currently in Beijing. Again, all eyes were on the individuals who tested positive. Who did you talk to? Let's get those people in isolation in their homes or in a hotel or in a hospital until the test results come back. Massive testing in those neighborhoods, in those housing complexes, anyone associated with that marketplace. We still don't know, the Chinese CDC still doesn't know how the virus got back here. It's the European strain of the virus. They think that it may have come back and been spreading a little bit in April among a small group of people, and then it sort of just exploded within that market. Maybe somebody brought it there and it exploded. That's from the genetic testing, but they really don't know, the bottom line. So the only other thing I really wanted to mention is, like, because I do a lot of videos about like living and working in China, what's happened now is, as a foreigner here, the first few weeks that things opened up in March, it was, people would look at me like, oh my God, you know, he's got the virus, which was understandable to some degree. That sort of ended, and there was a lot of talk on social media amongst foreigners, expats living in China, that like, oh, I feel it's very racist here and people are treating me poorly. That really did go away, and one of the things that I noticed is that it wasn't, people were like, it's racism. It wasn't really racism. It was ignorance, but at the same time, people from Wuhan were treated in exactly the same way. If you were from that province, people were like, get away. We checked into a hotel here in Duzhanyang yesterday. I didn't have much of a problem. The girl was a little bit confused about what to do procedurally. She took a picture of my health codes so that she didn't know what to do, like have it all on file. And then right as we were checking in, a family from Beijing were refused entry into the hotel. So it wasn't an issue of overt racism towards foreigners. It was an abundance of caution. Very frustrating for a lot of people. My conversations in taxis are always the same. What country are you from? How long have you lived in China? Can you tolerate spicy Chengdu food? What do you think of the Chengdu culture and stuff like that? And no, your Chinese is so good. The conversation shifted so that the second question was not how long have you lived in China, but when did you enter China, right? And that was about it. People were pretty calm other than that. And I never really had any major problems. There was a time in April and early May where I couldn't book hotels outside of Chengdu. My wife tried, and they were just like, we can't accept foreigners right now. Those restrictions have really been eased up because there's no foreigners that have been here since March 27th. So what does that mean? It means right now there are very, very few native English speakers comparatively who can teach English in China. So it's a teacher's market if you're here. If you are here and you're watching this video on your VPN and you don't realize yet that it's currently a teacher's market for finding jobs, you're a fool. Make sure you're not working for a company that's going to screw you over on your visa, because staying here is the most important thing. But everybody's looking to hire foreigners because there's just not enough of us here. If you're thinking future prospects after this absolute nightmare of the way the virus has been handled in the United States, and you're thinking of expatriating, and you think China handled it well, and you're thinking, maybe I'd like to go live in China when this is over, I would say when the borders open, there will still be opportunities here to get into the teaching business, teaching industry, education industry in China, based on the fact that there's very few people here. There were a lot of people that left who were sort of the types of foreigners who sort of come here on a tourist visa and just hang out for 60 days and then pop out of the country every 60 days or so, go to Hong Kong, come back, work part-time, that sort of thing. Those people are sort of cleared out, or will be clearing out soon, which means that just that talent pool will be very, very low when the borders do open again, and the market for English teaching is never going to go away, hopefully. So if you're thinking about that, keep your eye on the news, keep your eye on my channel as the borders open, whether it be once we have a vaccine or when things calm down in the EU and China decide to open up, or hopefully someday in the United States when things return to normal. Overall, a lot of my friends have said this, we feel pretty safe here. We feel that the government is doing everything that it can do to protect the citizens of the country. As far as the issue with the discrimination, in Guangzhou, for example, they set up a police hotline eventually that allowed people to call the police and say, hey, these people aren't letting me work here, these people aren't letting me come here, whatever. They were pretty good about it, and so I think a lot of people recognize that, and a lot of people feel like, wow, okay, they have protocols in place to help everybody here. So that's about it. I have a visa video on my channel, which you can find. I'll put links up to it here. That's really outdated, and I think it doesn't make sense yet to make another one. But essentially, again, right now, You're not going to get a visa to China. If you do, you're not going to be able to enter China on that visa. So until China decides to let people back in, you're not going to be able to come. That's the bottom line. And I wish you could, because, like I said, it's pretty safe here. That's it for now. I'll hopefully be getting another one of these documentary videos. I've got like a 10-minute clip of Chinese history made, ready to go. I just got to do some on-location filming to finalize that, and then I'll hopefully get it up in the next couple of weeks or so. So thanks for watching my channel. Please subscribe down below.